This episode of Dorking Out is brought to you by the Wonka Candy Corporation. Have you found your golden ticket?
And the letter H, because you can't spell huh without H. So the iHeartRadio Music Awards are a thing now? Huh.
Houston, flight is go.
Myla, let's go. SPM. Safety contact.
From Assignment X, Amalgamated Storytelling, and thesoniashow.com, it's Dorking Out with Sonia Mansfield and Christopher Allen Smith.
Welcome to episode 37 of Dorking Out, a podcast for people who like to dork out about stories and the stories and culture that we love. That means movies and TV, books and podcasts, and pretty much everywhere and everything else where you find stories that interest you or us, because this is our podcast. This is the Get Out Logan Edition. Get Out Logan Edition. With me today is my co-host, professional writer and author of The Sonia Show, Sonia Mansfield.
Hey there.
Hello.
With me today is my co-host, Emmy Award-winning filmmaker and nerd author, so I've heard, Christopher Allen Smith.
I'm going to bring this...
Someday I'll read his book.
I am going to bring this guilt trip onto the show. Keep making cracks like that. And what I mean by that is she's not reading my book that I sent her.
Shame on me.
I guess I did just bring it on the show.
Again. So anyway.
This is Reading Watch 2017. When will Sonia read it?
Hey, let me do my thing. In this week's episode, we're going to review the new X-Men movie, Logan, which star Hugh Jackman insists is the final time he's playing Wolverine. It made a ton of money this weekend, so we'll see if that sticks. Friend of the show, X-Men fan, and my better half, David Tracy, is going to join us to talk about it.
Acquaintance of the show.
Acquaintance.
I don't know if I'd call him a friend
quote,
of the show.
Quote, friend of the show. And our second segment, Smith and I are going to talk about the horror movie Get Out, which was released last weekend and has an almost impossible to get 99% on Rotten Tomatoes. Is it as good as everyone says? Well, you'll have to listen to find out.
There is a deep tragedy buried in that segment.
Yes. All of that, plus our favorite headlines of the week. We've got a lot to dork out about, so let's get this podcast started. Topic 1. Hugh Jackman bears his claws for the 9th and final time in Logan, which opened this weekend, earning more than $85 million. This is the best opening for an R-rated movie in March, and the best opening for a Wolverine movie ever, because duh. And because we're in a post-Deadpool world now, Logan is rated R, and just a tiny bit violent, just a tiny bit. Directed by James Mangold, who also directed 2013's The Wolverine. Not Wolverine Origins, The Wolverine.
How would you confuse those two?
That's right. Written by Scott Frank, Michael Green, and James Mangold, based on Mark Millar's Old Man Logan stories. Logan catches up with a weary Logan, looking like Mel Gibson after a bender, in the year 2029. Logan is taking care of an elderly Professor X, played by Patrick Stewart, who is suffering from a brain disease. He's working as a limo driver and saving his earnings to buy a boat and sail into the sunset with Professor X, but he is forced to change his plans when a young girl, played by Daphne Keane, who is more than a little bit like Wolverine, comes into his life and needs protecting from some evil bad guys who want to kill her. We're going to discuss the movie spoiler-free, so you don't need to worry about us ruining it for you if you weren't one of the millions of people who saw it this weekend. And joining us to talk about Logan is the biggest X-Men fan I know, and my super handsome better half, David Tracy, who works for the Chaos Group, which creates the rendering software that is used in pretty much every TV show and movie you love, including Game of Thrones, The Walking Dead, Doctor Strange, Rogue One, Deadpool, and of course, the SpongeBob SquarePants movie.
But not the Oscar-winning Jungle Book movie.
Not the Oscar-winning, no. But Stranger Things.
But Stranger Things, that's
I
good.
just learned that last week, actually.
That's cool.
I have a small spoiler before we jump into this, which is the intro to topic 2, where we review Get Out, is not going to be nearly this detailed or lengthy.
Yeah, that's a pretty lengthy intro.
Well,
Fantastic intro, but don't
thank you.
Don't expect that every time.
Coffee tonight. Hey, thank you for joining us, David.
Nine movies, huh? He's been in 9?
It is always great to have an acquaintance on the show on.
An acquaintance. Should we start with David?
Yes.
Seeing as how you're a guest, David?
Oh, what do you want to know?
What did you don't need to look at that. That's my notes. What did you think of Logan? You are an X-Men fan.
I am. So I am an X-Men fan. I am a giant size X-Men fan.
What does that mean, giant size?
So there was the original X-Men and the original X-Men in the 60s, and then in the early 70s they had the giant size X-Men, and that's where you got to first meet Storm and Wolverine and Colossus and Nightcrawler.
So
it was a new grouping of them. The only original kind of people that came over from the original lineup was Cyclops and Scott Summers and Jean Grey.
Okay.
Who becomes Phoenix. So so that was a really good time in comics. It was like still Stan Lee, but also Chris Claremont was writing, and there's like such a good story arc, and so many of those stories from the 70s kind of moved into like X-Men and X-Men 2 and these other movies that we're enjoying now. But Logan is like very much it's very dark. So I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah.
But boy, it's not super. If you grew up with like the 70s kind of version of X-Men, it's a pretty stark. It's almost like a Frank Miller.
Yeah.
X-Men.
I said it was like the Dark Knight of X-Men movies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I also
superheroes.
Yeah, no country for old X-Men.
Yeah.
I also wrote down it's X-Men meets Unforgiven.
Yeah.
But Unforgiven ends happier. That's kind of a spoiler, I guess, technically, but
kind of.
That's to give you an indication of how dark this movie is, and the more I think about this movie, the darker it gets.
I really like this movie. I really, really liked it. Like, it is easily like my favorite of the X-Men movies, and I'm including Deadpool in that. I really like Deadpool, but I like this one more. I think it's really, really great. What did you think, Smith? You're not an X-Men person, so
I am
now,
not.
To be fair, I haven't seen X-Men Apocalypse. Maybe that one's really awesome.
No, it is not.
No.
I have seen, and it's actually X-Men Apocalypse kind of cinched me for I'm done with X-Men. I'm tired of it. I really like a lot of Bryan Singer's X-Men material, and then he did X-Men Apocalypse. Now you add that on to X-Men or Wolverine's Origins and X-Men 3: The Last Stand and a lot of the other mediocre X-Men stuff, and it's just like, well, maybe you'll get a good movie, maybe you won't. For me, this one, and if I understand it, is the chronology, I guess, of the X-Men movies is so screwed up right now.
Yeah,
right.
It is all over the place.
And what's weird about this one is this one takes place, 15 years in the future. And does that mean that any movie that comes out between here and now is just destined to end up where this movie ends up in 2029? Now, what I've heard is that Fox has said this movie is kind of a standalone pocket universe. It only tells its own story. It doesn't connect up with anything else. It doesn't hint at the future of the series. It's just they found this fantastic story that they wanted to tell, so they're telling it. Kind of like, correct me if I'm wrong, David, the Old Man Logan series.
That's how I took it. I didn't take this as something that lines up with the rest of the other movies.
It's almost like Rogue One, a Wolverine story.
Well, it is, but that's the thing, is Rogue One locks together with Episode 4 like two Lego bricks perfectly. This one is just, if you think about and maybe I'm gonna not exactly spoil it, but if you're very nervous about even finding out the tone or the general direction of a movie, you might want to skip ahead. This is like finding out everyone dies at the end of the last James Bond movie.
At the end of the...
This is just watching a series and then having it come to this grim end. I don't know. I found it kind of dispiriting. I think there's a tone that you can have a really hard, rough tone and a rated R movie that's really going to go in some adult directions, but this movie seemed pretty nihilistic. I mean, it seemed pretty just pitch black, and even The Dark Knight, which is an unremittingly grim superhero movie, has some meaning in it and some interesting character things going on, and asks some interesting questions about what it is to be the nature of a hero and all this stuff, and what the ultimate outcome of a struggle like that might be. This one just seems like everything sucks, and it's going to suck more in the future, and then it's really going to suck.
Everything is awful.
Pretty much. Everything is bad as you think it could be. Everything is awful.
Yeah.
It's, I really liked it, but I think it left... I guess the upshot is this left kind of a really bad taste in my mouth. And everybody that I respect that loves comics, real comic book movie type people, love this movie like crazy. And it is a really good movie. And it does examine, some of the nature of heroism and, what you do at the end of a hard life to make some meaning when it seems like life's passed you by and all this stuff. But then what happens in this movie is so dark that
it's so brutal.
Yeah.
This is a brutal movie.
Like, I can see myself, like, I'll sit down, I'll watch Days of Future Past again.
Right.
I'll watch it, and I'll watch First Class again, and then, like, Logan, like, I don't know.
I will totally watch this one again.
I really like it, but
yeah,
it's rough.
I like Westerns. We've talked about this on the show before. I like Westerns.
Yes.
And I think like Hell or High Water recently, it was like, that was called like a modern Western. I 100% believe that Logan is also like a modern Western. And I think it knows it is. It's got a very obvious like nod to 1953's Shane.
Oh, yeah.
In the movie. So it's telling you, I'm a Western.
Yeah.
And I like that sort of thing. So I'm into it. I'm kind of like, about like the original, the first three like X-Men movies. Like I thought the first one was pretty good. I thought the second one was even better than that. I hated the third one.
Right.
I didn't like the other Wolverine movie. I really like this one. Like,
yeah,
all of the X-Men movies, they all have like those big, typical, like big blockbuster action beats that they just have to hit, and like this one just doesn't have that. It's really more of a character study, but it's really, really violent.
It does have some fantastic action in it, though.
We have never seen like Wolverine use his claws the way he does in this movie. Like it's always been very like PG-13 and bloodless before. And this is really gruesome and brutal and violent, and more than a few times I went, "Oh, ah!" and like, covered my face, and it's really hardcore.
Yeah, well, X-23 and in the X-Force, there's a series of comics called the X-Force, and that's where you get to see a far more kind of brutal side of Wolverine, and actually Deadpool even kind of joins the team in X-Force also, and it's a pretty violent pretty violent series of X-Men stories, but it's still an ensemble. It's still like a group. It's not just Logan and Professor X. There's an element to the movie too where I feel like some parts of how it turns out, it reminds me in it doesn't play out the way I want it to in my happy little mind. Sort of like the way episode 7. It's like, no, that's not how it happens.
Right.
Because I have my own my own fan fiction because I grew up with this, and I have my own idea on how it's gonna
Right.
go, and I'm gonna live in my happy world. So thank you for hurting my happy world and bringing this stark darkness to my living room or to my theater. I do like it was really, really well shot, and it's really
Yeah.
has some interesting parts and some shocking parts. There are a few things where you're like, oh yeah, I know what this is going to be. Like the foreshadowing was a little obvious for me in a couple parts, but I love that they're doing a black and white version.
Yeah,
of it,
kind of like they
too.
did with Fury Road.
Yeah,
going
the black was it Chrome, black and Chrome edition.
Yeah, the shine.
shiny and Chrome.
Yeah, I look forward to that. I think it's like a really fitting end to Hugh Jackman's Wolverine. Like to me, like he was always like the heart of those of the X-Men movies.
Yeah, which I think
his and his road to redemption. I mean, he's been playing this dude for 20 years.
I think he's been in every single movie, hasn't he? Or almost every, except for like
I didn't see
Deadpool
Apocalypse.
and one
Is
other.
he in Apocalypse? He's not in Deadpool, but Deadpool doesn't even. I don't know if does that technically even fall into the X-Men. I mean, technically it is, but
yeah. I mean, he is in Apocalypse. He's not in First Class.
Yeah, he is in First Class.
He is.
Oh, he is
For one scene.
Where
he
drops like an F-bomb or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gosh.
I think he's in all of it. I mean, he's been playing this for 20 years. Since then, we've had like how many Spider-Men?
Don't get me started.
3.
We've had 3 different Spider-Men.
I like how you pronounce it, Spider-Man.
Spider-Man. Well, there's
JK,
multiple.
Lawyer Spider-Man.
That's all right. I'm Chip
Spider-Man.
I'm
and
Chip
Associates.
Spider-Man. I'm here to fix your sink.
Well, wouldn't that be the plural of Spider-Man? Spider-Man.
No, but
I stand by my pronunciation.
You're technically correct, which is the best kind of correct to be.
How many Supermen do we have?
We've had 2.
2.
The bummer about the Spider-Man movies is that every other one is an origin. So it's like it's a replay, a retake of the origin story. So it's like, here we go again. Here's a new take on it. Can they do it right this time?
No.
Right. Well, at least
we'll see.
We're not watching the Waynes die again on screen. But anyway, back to Logan.
I want to say like some other things I really loved. I loved that there are children in this movie, but they are not cutesy or precocious.
Yeah.
I love that the movie is not filled with like a bunch of like winks, nods, and fan service. If it is, it went over my head.
Yeah.
I love that the final act of the movie is not a big CGI mess.
Yeah.
That I'm like, what's happening here? And I'm not going to ruin the end, but I want to say the minute the movie was over, I told David, I was like, I really like this ending because I feel like so many movies don't stick the landing. They go on like 5 to 10 minutes too long.
Right.
And they just drag it out and they spell everything out for you and they don't leave on like the emotion beat that they should.
Right.
Instead of like trusting the movie and to end where it should and trusting us to like it.
Yeah.
And I feel like this movie ends where it should.
Yeah. I'd be really interested to see, given all that, I agree with everything that you've said. I'd be really interested to see what the future of comic book movies holds from this. Because the great thing, I mean, this movie is, you were correct in your introduction where you said this is kind of the Unforgiven of comic book movies, because it's kind of like this is a real examination of what a life lived in these comic book movies would really leave someone. I mean, with all the stuff that he's done, all the heroics, all the killing people and everything, you know, what is a lifetime, or 2 or 3 or 5 lifetimes, since he has the healing factor, you know, what is he, like 200 years old by the time he gets into this movie? You know, if you live a life like that, what kind of scars does it leave? And it is really good. Well, you know what? Here, I'm going to spoil this a little bit, or I'm going to kind of give our spoiler sound, because I want to ask David a couple questions to make sure that I understood it. And maybe this is what's keeping me back from loving this movie. Here we go. So correct me if I'm wrong, David. Every mutant in the world is essentially dead by the beginning of this movie, except for these kids that were engineered in a lab, right?
Yeah, so that part I wasn't familiar with the mutants just kind of disappearing like that. So I'm not familiar with that at all.
Okay.
Well, they do explain that no more mutants have been born.
Right. And that the one bad guy that's making all these kind of mutants in a lab mentioned that he had kind of cured mutantism, like, you know, Jonas Salk had cured polio. So I'm thinking, yeah, it's good that Wolverine helped the kids and everything, but it seems like, all right, they're gonna run away into Canada or whatever, and then they're gonna be killed like the rest of the mutants have been, and everyone else is dead. It just seems like this is a very hopeless movie, and I think that's the thing.
You don't know that they're all why would you think they're all going to be killed?
Because every other mutant on Earth's been killed. The forces that have dwindled the numbers of mutants down to these kids and Professor X and Wolverine has killed off every other mutant.
Well, I think you're reading something into it that's not there. I don't think
I could
he's
be
telling you that that's going to happen.
Okay, I could be. If my understanding of every other mutant being dead is correct, I feel pretty confident. But did you guys understand it like that all the other mutants had been killed off or suppressed, or killed off, I guess?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Professor X kind of mentions, and like they don't even believe him when they think he's delusional when he says he senses, when he's having visions and seeing like the Statue of Liberty and stuff like that.
Right.
That's right.
But and there are some references there to some stuff where, you know, like when he there are a few little X-Men Easter eggs in the movie, but they are pretty subtle and not like Sherlock. I mean, Sherlock has some Easter eggs for Sherlock people,
right?
But they're not gratuitous with it. You're right.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but the Old Man Logan story from the comic books that this is roughly based on has Wolverine essentially being mind tricked into killing off all the other mutants. So by the time Old Man Logan starts, he's the one that's been responsible for killing off all the other mutants, thinking he's killing off the enemies of the mutants or the X-Men. Is that right?
There's there's some mind control, and even there's some of it from. See, that's the thing. Like the comic is such a friggin' soap opera. Like there's actually a Spider-Man villain,
right,
named Mysterio, who's actually one of my favorite villains. That's actually involved in messing with.
But they
Logan
don't say
and
that.
Professor
They don't
X
say
and
that in the
stuff like that.
movie.
No, they don't allude to the.
I mean, Professor X alludes to something that he did,
right,
and
that resulted in a lot of mutants dying.
Right, and
but we don't know what it is.
I think that's my understanding, is that essentially in this movie, Professor X has killed off all the mutants. The humans who are against mutants have essentially won the Homo sapien versus Homo. What's the scientific name for mutants?
For a mutant, yeah. I was just thinking about that. It was like Homo, I don't know, superior.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, so they've won the war. They can grow mutants in a lab now. They've dwindled it down to this 15 kids, maybe. You know, they're running to Canada. Professor X is dead. Wolverine's dead. It's just so. I think you know what? Now that we're talking this through, that's the thing that's keeping me from loving this movie. Is it's a hopeless. It's not that it's a grim, dark, hard movie. It's that it's a hopeless movie, and I just. For my temperament or whatever, or where I am right now in life, I just can't take hopelessness. I can take grim
it as
determination.
Hopeless as you. I really didn't.
Okay.
Although the idea that all these kids who were created in a lab in Mexico are now in America and making a run for the Canadian border, the politics is not lost on me.
Right.
Wolverine is Canadian himself.
That's right. You told me that.
He's a Canuck. He was created to be a Weapon X by the Canadian government.
I didn't take it as hopeless as you did.
Yeah.
For whatever, like, yeah.
One of the reasons I've always liked X-Men so much, and it beads into with Star Trek, is that there's a lot of X-Men has never been shy about social commentary. Like, they had a Russian character right in the heart of the Cold War, and they had a Native American superhero that they brought in, and they had a Jewish female teenager, Shadowcat, Kitty Pryde. Like, they were always kind of pushing the boundaries, and there's a lot of metaphor to acceptance and diversity and everything like that, and kind of these outsiders and how you treat them and everything. And it's funny that you mentioned how nihilistic Logan is, because it almost feels like, wow, you have X-Men, this whole idea, this story, and then in Logan it's like, and that didn't work out.
Right. I think that's the thing. And that was one of the things that I loved about Bryan Singer's first two movies. Is it was, I think it was a little bit of a commentary on the struggle for gay and lesbian people to kind of find acceptance in America, but it's a bigger metaphor for all marginalized people trying to find acceptance and find a way. And this movie essentially starts with, too bad, didn't work out, you're all dead. And now, you know what it is?
Good luck, kids.
Yeah, good luck, kids. Now that Wolverine was ground down by your struggle to survive, good luck without even him. I think it's a little bit like there's a little bit of message dissonance, but kind of like at the end of Return of the Jedi, where, Darth Vader's really this old man and he gets to see his son again. Oh, isn't that nice? There's kind of a happy ending, even though he is a mass murderer.
Yeah.
And here it's,
he killed all the
he's a child murderer and he's killed thousands throughout the galaxy, but he got a nice moment with his son.
And now he's just an old burn victim.
Now he's just an old bird victim, isn't it? With this movie, it's, everybody's dead. Have fun trying to survive, you 15 kids. Run to the border. It's sorry. I guess that's it. That's what's keeping me from loving this.
Deserves more empathy than Darth Vader does.
What was that?
Frankenstein's monster deserves more empathy than Darth Vader does.
Absolutely.
That's true.
He didn't have a say in this. He can't help it.
That's right. So, Sonia, did you have any other thoughts or any other...
No, I think I went through my list.
Okay.
I'm good.
Dave,
I stand by my original thing. It is my favorite of all the X-Men movies.
Yes. Actually, you know what? That's the weird thing. That's the weird thing that I'm having, is I really did like this movie. It was a masterfully done movie. It was very tightly controlled in its tone and its storytelling and all that. But I just, where it deliberately wanted to take me, I didn't want to go there. And that's just it for me. But yeah. David, what did you, as a tried and true X-Men fan, did you have anything else that you wanted to say?
Not really. I mean, I did enjoy it, but it didn't. It's weird. It wasn't very X-Men.
Where would you put it in your ranking?
So it's tough because my three favorites are X-Men 2, Days of Future Past, and then this one for sure. Like, it's in the top 3. It's been a while since I've seen X-Men 2. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I think in terms of actual filmmaking, this is a better movie.
Right.
But in terms of an X-Men movie, I don't know where it sides.
Yeah.
In that regard. Like, the graphic novel for Days of Future Past is amazing, and I love the time aspects in that film, so that might be more towards the top to me for Logan, just as an X-Men fan.
Yeah.
But as a movie buff, I think Logan is a better made film.
Oh,
having said that, I think it's really hard to make a good ensemble superhero movie, as Avengers 2 has shown.
Right.
I think it's a tougher. It's an impressive feat if you can do. I remember when the very first X-Men movie came out. I saw it opening weekend, thinking I don't know if they're going to be able to pull this off because no one had done an ensemble superhero movie successfully, period. And that was kind of the first one to do it way before the huge like superhero movies are all the rage and you can't escape them now. And that kind of almost established the genre almost with the first X-Men movie. So I don't know. I enjoyed it.
I would give this an 8. I would say an 8. It's a solid 8 for me.
Out of 20 or out of 12? What's your ranking system on the dorking? How many dorks do you get in the dorking out?
It's from
8 dorks?
It's from 0 to 10.
From 0 to 10. I give it 8 dorks.
8 dorks? I'd give it 8 dorks.
I would say, yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think, Smith?
Continuing our tradition of seeming to disagree while agreeing perfectly, numerically, I give it 8 dorks as well.
Yes.
What
about you, David?
I said 8 dorks, but I'd say as an X-Men movie, I'd give it 7 dorks.
Got it.
I am not
it's
sure
a movie 8 dorks.
how many dorks I would give this new rating system.
I give it 1 dork.
Yeah.
The rating system gets 1 dork.
That's right.
I love it.
Want more dorking out? Well, there's a few simple things you can do. First, go to iTunes and give us your 5-star rating and review. This helps us find new listeners. Next, be a good friend and share like your mommy told you to. Simply go to dorkingoutshow.com and you'll find some links to our show which you can post to your Facebook, Twitter, or wherever fine social media links are shared. It's an easy way to impress your friends and make your enemies green with envy. Which is really the point of social media anyway, isn't it? After all, listening to any of the Dorking Out shows means that you're a modern trendsetter. We know, because if audience research has shown anything, it's that the Dorking Out show audience is smarter, more attractive, and less susceptible to baseless flattery than any other audience in the podcasting world. That means that you're the best. It's right here, in the data, which is totally real and not made up in any way. So share our show. You can talk about it with your friends, and we can get new listeners, which means you get more shows. It's the circle of life modified to include podcasting. Point is, please rate us on iTunes and tell your friends. Now, back to the show.
Well, it looks like 2017 is picking up exactly where the murderous year of 2016 has left off. 2017, March, has already taken another towering comic talent. I am talking, of course, about Jordan Peele, half of the legendary comedy duo Key and Peele. Reports came out earlier this week with the release of Peele's first big screen directing effort, the horror thriller Get Out, that it was fantastic, amazing, gripping, and thought-provoking. It has snagged a 99% on Rotten Tomatoes, which Toy Story 3 had a hard time holding on to its 99%. the what you have to do to get a 99%, I don't even want to think about. So we have gained a new, exciting director, Jordan Peele, but I am afraid that we have lost one of the great comedians of the last 10 years, Jordan Peele.
I think you're being a little melodramatic.
So we begin our review of Get Out. Comedian Jordan Peele was 38. Director Jordan Peele is 38. Get Out tells the story of Chris Washington, played by Daniel Kaluuya. I am relatively sure that's wrong.
We're continuing our tradition of mispronouncing.
That's right. And now
name.
Sonia can't even talk.
Yes.
Tells the story of Chris Washington as he goes to meet the parents of his white girlfriend. Chris Washington, I should have said, is African American. Played by Allison Williams.
I think it's Williams.
In a diamond-tight bit of typecasting, let me just say, as somebody who has seen every episode of Girls, I don't know why either. Anyway, when he gets to her parents' house, where her parents are played by Kathleen Keener and Bradley Whitford, Chris finds out that things are not exactly the picture of domestic bliss he might have expected. Sonia.
Yes.
Jordan Peele wrote and directed this movie. It is getting ridiculous reviews. He has also revealed that he is wanting to make 4 more kind of satirizing horror, comedy, thriller movies in the same vein as Get Out.
I will see all of those.
That is exactly my point. This man is not going to be able to be a comedian. This is almost like seeing Ben Affleck direct Cry Baby Cry and then The Town back to back. And it's
Gone
just
Baby Gone.
Isn't that what? Oh, yeah, Gone Baby Gone. Yeah, this is like a serious director that nobody knew was doing, acting in Hollywood, as now could have a huge career as a director. What did you think of this? Talk to me about this movie. I think
it should not surprise anyone to know. If you see this movie, it should not be surprising that it's directed by such a talented comedian, because I think horror, much like comedy, is about timing. And I think I love this movie. I super love this movie. I like that it's funny and creepy and awkward and just like this overwhelming sense of dread.
Right.
That it instills. I wrote down in my notes that it starts as Guess Who's Coming to Dinner and then turns into Rosemary's Baby.
Right.
And I've just been thinking about Rosemary's Baby a lot since I saw this movie. Like that feeling of dread and the idea. I don't want to. We should say we're not going to spoil the movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because not everyone has seen it.
Yeah, I don't think so.
And I think the less you know, the better.
Yeah.
So I won't even go on about why I keep thinking about Rosemary's Baby, but I keep thinking about Rosemary's Baby. I just love the movie's so smart.
Yeah.
It's just so smart. Like the way, it's got funny parts. It's got really creepy parts. It's just like this really tight movie.
Yeah.
Like there's, it's such a smart way to talk about race too.
Yeah.
Like on top of being like just funny and creepy.
Yeah.
It's actually got something really serious to say about racism.
Yeah. It does.
I really, really, really liked it. And I love that. I think, this is a stereotype for a reason that people talk about, like how African-American characters are always like the first to die.
Right.
In horror movies. So like in any other horror movie, like the lead, Chris, would have been like the first to go.
Right.
And he's really smart, and he's a final girl, I guess.
Right. Not that we're going to spoil anything.
Right.
But
well, I'm not spoiling. Yeah. I'm not spoiling it. I didn't say how it ends, but
that's true.
I'm just saying, like he's very smart.
Yeah. This is sometimes I feel caught between, when discussions like this come up, either politics or diversity or whatever, I feel kind of caught between both sides.
Because you're horribly racist?
Yeah, that's right. Because I'm racist. No, it's because you hear, especially in Hollywood, you hear a lot of BS platitudes about,
right.
we're really into diversity and we really care. We care about telling everyone's stories. And then you look at the people that get hired. You look at the people that get hired for writing jobs, directing jobs, and it is obvious that
right.
Hollywood is not putting its money where its mouth is. And the idea is, we should have more directors so they can tell, a more, a wider range of stories and all this kind of stuff. We should be more diverse, blah, 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 blah. And usually what it is a lot of, hey, see, it's a lot of white people pointing to the one black director or writer that they've hired and saying,
Right.
see, look at us. We're not racist. We
See?
hired blah, blah, blah.
Look, here's my one black friend.
Exactly. The reason, so a lot of times when I hear discussions of diversity coming from the power structures in Hollywood, I do it with rolling my eyes, and it's kind of like, well, whatever. You're gonna hire Ryan Coogler, and he's gonna go off and direct a huge Marvel movie. So yes, I understand he's directing Black Panther, but you're hiring these women or African Americans, and then you're just putting them into the same machine that is stamping out these big studio movies, which I love. But the whole idea of we're going to tell different stories from different points of view, 999 times out of 1,000 turns out to just be BS. The reason that I hope real authentic diversity comes into Hollywood and they really put their money where their mouth is because we will get more movies like Get Out. Get Out is a fascinating movie that I think, and maybe
I
it's
need
just
to
me,
see. I need to see it again. I'm already feeling like I need to see this again.
It looks at white culture almost as kind of like the crew of the Enterprise looks at a new planet with a new weird culture. It lets us into Chris's life. So we're
it always comes back to Star Trek for you.
We're sympathizing with Chris. We're with him, and we get to watch him go into unknown country. And we're sympathetic with him because everybody's always, Jordan Peele mentioned this on the Q&A podcast. The reason that he used Guess Who's Coming to Dinner as the kind of the template for this is because everybody can identify.
Did he? See?
Yeah.
Okay.
Everybody can identify with having to go meet the parents of your girlfriend and what that's like, and you're nervous, and you're going to some strange house in some town you've never been to, and you're venturing into this place, and you're putting yourself out there. But as he does this, we're watching white culture from a very different point of view, but not in kind of a Black Lives Matter, finger wagging, finger pointing kind of way, but in a real personable way that is fascinating, and it does show the little weird, creepy interactions, the little slights,
the casual racism.
Yeah, the casual racism, or not even. I don't even know if it'd be racism, but well, actually, in this movie, it definitely turns out that way. But it's just the little ways the white people try to be friendly to African Americans, and they think they're trying to say something, or they're trying to say something, they're trying to be nice, but it's just so tone deaf and dumb and weird that when you look at it from the point of view of an African American director kind of saying, this is our experience, it shows the weirdnesses of white culture in a very refreshing, very new, very different way. This is a horror movie, unlike, I think, a lot of what we've seen before. And what's great is, yes, there are creepy, weird, horror movie moments in it, but I would say 80% of the creepiness of this movie comes from just the interaction of people with him. There's a lot. I was expecting a lot more creepy, supernatural, bizarro thriller stuff in here. And there's that in there, but it's just the perspective that he casts on everything as this weird, creepy journey into the heart of darkness is fascinating. It's really, really good, really creepy. And it's watching him try to keep himself safe and keep himself on everyone's good side as he meets Allison Williams' brother, and then the dad, played by Bradley Whitford, is he's always great, and then Catherine Keener is fantastic, but it's just there's
one of the things I really like about this movie is I feel like in horror movies, the leads, they don't seem to know they're in danger until it's too late. But Chris, as a young black man,
Yeah.
kind of is walking around feeling like he's in danger all the time.
Yeah. Yes.
And so he's already like kind of on alert.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's like, it's just such an interesting perspective
Yeah.
that like I had never seen it before.
Well,
This is a just such an original, smart movie.
it is.
I was just really blown away.
And the thing that's great about it is most of it, up until the later stages of the movie, a lot of it really is kind of like a weird Seinfeld episode where he's trying to decide, okay, this is creepy, but is it creepy enough for me to leave the house and be kind of rude to my girlfriend's parents and start that kind of drama? Or should I just bite the bullet, stick it out, and just see what happens? And, so he's in this very human, very understandable place of how does he balance what he wants to do, the relationship he wants to have with Allison Williams versus, the creepiness and weirdness of the, white suburbia that he's finding himself in.
Yeah. Well, he's doing that dance that we all do where you're like, your gut is telling you one thing and your head is telling you something else. Like,
right. Yeah.
And we've all been there. Not quite the same.
Yeah.
But.
And it shows at the same time is that there are, and I've heard, African-American commentators talk about this, is sometimes somebody's just weird. And sometimes there is a weird racial tension under it, and trying to figure out, is this person just clumsy in the way they talk? Or is this person, or am I reading correctly between the lines that there's a danger here? And watching him go through all that with, there's kind of this, big mixer at this, nice palatial, or this very palatial house that Allison Williams' parents live in. It's creepy. And I would say, 3/4 of this is not even like not even like a horror movie. It's just, this very different perspective on culture in America that is very revealing. But the thing I love about it is it's not like nagging, and it's not like finger wagging, and it's not like tone deaf. It's just very human, and you put yourself, Jordan Peele's a fantastic director, and setting the tone correctly and putting you in the shoes of Chris from the first few frames. So even, so anybody watching this movie can definitely sympathize and get right in with him. Is just so good and so creepy. So it's great. For my money, I don't know if it's a 99. Yeah, I think Rotten Tomatoes sometimes steers us wrong, especially when movies get up into the 90s. It's kind of like, well, The Godfather has a 96 and Get Out has a 99, so is it really better than No, it's not.
Well, the one guy who wrote a negative review, his review is really quite stupid. Did you read it?
No, I didn't. I'm sure it is, and I think I've.
He says right off the bat,
that's the guy.
like, he doesn't like. He didn't think Key and Peele was a very funny show, and I was like, oh, well, then this, Yeah. Okay.
I think I saw that. You know what? Why don't you talk about? I've been yammering a little bit. Why don't you talk? I'm going to run that guy down, and we're going to talk.
Well, he's from the National Review.
Right. I think I know. I think that I think we talked about this last week. I think the guy that wrote the negative review of Get Out is the guy I was referring to last week, but I named the wrong critic last week.
I think
professional contrarian.
Yes, that's his thing, is to, go against the grain. And he also like messes up like key plot points and, so he can't be trusted.
Yeah. Nevertheless,
I'm excited to hear that Jordan Peele wants to do more of these types of movies. I just thought this movie was so good and really like the premise. And I'm not going to go on and on about what it's about because I don't want to ruin it for people. It really could have been a sketch on his show, but it's so much more than that, and it's so much deeper than that.
Right.
And like I said, it explores race in a way I've just never seen before, and I was just really, really impressed. And I went on a Tuesday night, and that theater was packed.
Yeah. It's a
and it
fantastic
wasn't
movie.
like it wasn't in like the tiny screen. It was in the big screen, and it was packed. And the audience, they were into it.
Yeah.
I don't know what the audience was like that you saw it with, but they were on board.
Yeah.
They were clapping and cheering, and they were into it.
Yeah. That's the thing is, I really do think, with this movie being so good and making the money that it's making, I really do think he's going to be spending the next 10 years making the 4 other movies. Not that they're in the like the Get Out series, but he said kind of social commentary horror movies or suspenseful comedies. And I think he's going to do it. I think it's going to be great. And I think if he shows the kind of tone control and deftness at directing and writing that he shows in this, he really is he's going to be getting nominated for Best Director. He's going to, his movies are going to be nominated for Best Picture. It would not surprise me if this one was nominated for Best Picture. I mean, it is really good, and it's about an important subject without Hollywood's usual tone deaf, pat themselves on the back. Michelle Pfeiffer giving a big speech to a classroom of black kids, kind of.
Right. It doesn't have Kevin Costner breaking down a colored sign over a bathroom.
That's
and,
right.
We all pee the same.
That's right.
Whatever. Like, it doesn't have that. What was I going to say? Oh, you used the word control.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say. And I think that is a really important word here. Like, I like how controlled the movie is. It's really tight.
Yeah.
There's nothing in the movie that you're like, well, they could have taken that out or they could have taken that out. Like, everything's there for a reason.
Yeah.
And it's just a really smart, I keep using that word, controlled, tight movie.
Yeah.
That it's really, really great. And I love that it just came out of nowhere. I didn't see this coming. Did you? I hadn't even heard of this movie.
No, I hadn't. I had heard that he was going to be doing a horror movie, and I was kind of interested, but it just, like a lot of movies, actually this March, it's kind of like I for some reason I thought it was coming out in the summer, and it's coming out now, and holy cow, it is a fantastic movie. There is one line. Actually, I am going to spoil one thing, and I'm going to clap, or we're gonna play the spoiler sound here in a second. There is one line that was so funny that you know what? Here's what I'm going to do. All right, we're going to spoil a line at the end of the movie, or near the end of the movie. So if you don't want to get it spoiled, skip ahead like 3 or 4 minutes. So when his friend says, "I told you not to go in that house," that might have been the one misstep or whatever with either the script or the directing or something, because it was so funny and so perfectly timed that it was almost as though the entire movie had been a lead up to that punchline.
Well, and that's one of the reasons why I was like, this might have started as a sketch on their show.
I don't know. Maybe it could. It was just so. Oh my God! It was It was really funny, and it did seem like a sketch type punchline, like a nice little button at the end of a.
Yeah,
something.
But it played in my theater. Like, people were howling about it, and I really liked that character. I think like he could have been like a really obnoxious person.
Yeah.
But I think we needed him to break some of that tension.
Yeah.
And he was played by, I think his name, Lil Rel Hallry. Hallry?
Look at Sonia trying to pronounce words.
I suck. Anyway, he's.
But in your defense, holy cow! Look at that name.
It's a crazy name.
I'll be the Jimmy Kimmel tonight.
Chris's friend Rod, who's also a TSA agent, and
that's right.
He's very funny.
Lil Rel Howry.
Yeah.
Lil, no space, capital REL. Like I said, I will be the Jimmy Kimmel of tonight and say, that's a name. Look at that name. All right.
So what
yeah.
what will you give this movie on a scale of 1 to 10?
I would give it an 8. Here's the thing, is in order for me to go above 8 to a 9 or a 10, it's not a 10, I don't think. But I need to see a movie again. I need to see it several times to see if there are pleasures and, if it holds up. I found that a lot of tense movies, a lot of scary movies, they don't hold up just because you know what the spring is later. And it's, it doesn't have the same tension because you know what's coming and it's not as creepy. But I would say, it's in the 8 or a 9 ballpark. And I'm insanely
I would say
excited.
that as well.
I am insanely excited for his next movie.
Me too.
I know that I believe that Key and Peele are working on a Key and Peele movie based on the substitute teacher sketch. I hope that's true. I want to see that, and I want him to get done with it as quick as they can so he can get back to making more movies like this, because holy smokes, this was good. Is there anything else that you would like to say about it?
Go see it.
Go see it. All right, so it's an interesting. I think this is going to be a really interesting month for movies. After Logan and Get Out, I think this is going to.
Hey, I was stoked when I saw Get Out and then Logan, because I was like, well, that's a good week.
Yes, definitely. So, all right, on to our favorite headlines, and there's a lot of them this week. Want to do the intro for favorite headlines?
Well,
that brings us to favorite headlines.
Sounds like you have this handled.
I guess I do. I asked Sonia if she wanted to do it. She wasn't saying anything, so I'm going to step up in my leadership responsibilities.
I responded with,
All right. This is a little
because apparently it's a little too much for me to say. And now favorite headlines.
That's right. All right. This is a little bit of behind the scenes. This is how we make the show. Sonia Mansfield.
Yes.
Please introduce favorite headlines.
And now favorite headlines.
See how different that is?
It's totally different.
All right.
Please leave all this in. Do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
I will go first.
Okay.
We're doing something a little bit different this week. We're going to do a shotgun round where we're just going to blast through a bunch of headlines. And
I'm really going to hold Smith to this.
That's right. And it is completely my fault. First headline comes from TrekMovie.com, which is a fantastic news site for news about Star Trek movies, believe it or not. First, it comes from here, which is Chris Pine just recently did an interview with Extra TV when he was asked about the future of the Star Trek franchise, what the story is with the 4th movie, which was announced last year before Star Trek Beyond came out, but 2 things have happened since then. First, his quote, "I haven't really heard anything about it. I haven't gotten the script, so we'll see what happens, but I love this group of people." 2 developments since Star Trek 4 was announced is, 1, Star Trek Beyond did not do nearly as good at the box office as people were hoping. Those people,
which I don't blame Star Trek Beyond for. I blame Star Trek Into Darkness for that.
Maybe. I don't know.
I stand by my theory.
You could stand by your theory, but the thing
people
is,
went to see Star Trek Into Darkness and they're like, what a POS, so they didn't bother seeing the next one. That's what I think.
No, they didn't. That is not true. That is what a small cohort of Star Trek diehards say. But the Rotten Tomatoes score and the box office of Star Trek Into Darkness negate that theory. I am sorry, Sonia Mansfield.
No, I stand by my theory.
The evidence is not with you.
It is.
Second bit of news since last summer is that the head of Paramount Pictures, which produced and released Star Trek IV, was fired. Brad Grey had to step down as CEO last week. So Paramount is leaderless, and they're looking for another leader, hence their leaderlessness. They're looking for another leader to lead the studio, which means everything on the studio's current docket of developed projects is on hold. Most of them are probably going to be wiped away because when a new head steps into a studio or a network, the first thing they usually do is throw out everything that's been developed before. So good luck on seeing the Star Trek IV that was going to have Chris Hemsworth play Chris Pine's father, which
it'll still happen. They're not gonna walk away from Star Trek.
Well, yeah, they might not, but they've done it twice before, and it took surprisingly large box office hits at the last possible moment to save the franchise. So we'll see. But that's the story there.
Yes.
The future of Star Trek movies in grave doubt. What is your favorite headline? What is your next favorite headline?
I wouldn't say this is my favorite headline, but I put it here just for you.
It's not mine.
More episodes of the Gilmore Girls revival could be on its way.
Yeah,
According to Netflix, they are in preliminary discussions to do more episodes of the Gilmore Girls, which people were super into. I want to say it had high ratings, but I don't think Netflix really uses ratings. It got a lot of views.
Right.
As you know, I was very disappointed. You actively hated it. And your wife
I was not
really,
a fan.
really hated it.
My wife did actively hate it.
Yes.
I was more fascinated by her hatred than I was in my hating it myself. But yeah, that was spectacular.
Yeah, so more could be on its way. Consider yourself warned.
Right.
Actually, this one really is my favorite headline. So HBO started a new limited mystery series called Big Little Lies, which with Reese Witherspoon and Nicole Kidman. And we're going to talk about it on next week's show. But it had a lot of viewers. It got 21 million viewers. So
Holy
that's
smokes.
I'm sorry, 2.1 million.
I was going to say, wow,
No,
I haven't heard numbers like that since
sorry,
Friends was
I'm
on the
sorry.
air.
Oh, decimal points are important. 2.1 million viewers,
Which is still huge.
which
in
is still
today's
really
market,
high, and
especially for
much
HBO.
much higher than say The Night of or The Young Pope or things like that. So I'm excited. I want them to keep doing limited series like this, like they did with Night of, like they did with The Jinx, and this one. I really like those. I'm enjoying them, so I'm glad that it's doing well.
Yeah, it's an interesting. That's a horror movie.
Yeah, we're going to talk about this one next week.
We're going to talk about it, and yeah, I'm probably going to get myself into some trouble when we start talking about this one.
Oh, now I'm really excited to talk about it.
It's good.
And then I also put some other headlines here real fast about Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah.
So apparently, one of the characters in the live-action Beauty and the Beast that's coming out on the 17th is gay. And
an gay character in a Disney movie?
Yes.
Who would have thought it?
Well, apparently, this is the first time this has happened. This is the first out gay character.
Maybe. But
well, anyway,
everybody
and
knows.
some Alabama movie theaters all bent out of shape about it, and they're refusing to play the movie. Who cares? Screw them, right? They're lost. But I wanted to say, I did read a really funny headline where it was like, people outraged about gay character in movie about woman and buffalo relationship.
That's right. I saw that same thing too, and it's true. It's like, I don't know, and this happens on the left and the right. It's like sometimes I don't understand what people are getting up on their soapboxes about. I don't get it. Like, a gay character in this movie, okay, you don't like gay people, but why this movie? Why aren't they saying we're not going to show, I don't know, Moonlight or something? which is about an actual gay relationship. They
probably don't show that either.
Right. This is a fantasy gay relationship where a woman is falling in love with a monster.
Yes.
But they're cool with that part.
That part is totally believable.
That's right.
But the gay part, that is not right.
Yeah, I don't. I think part of it, I'll be honest, part of it is me. I'm having a hard time taking this story seriously. One, because who cares what some dumb little theater somewhere no one's
in Alabama
or wherever. One theater says, we're not going to show your movie. It's like, all right, whatever. It's like you know what? Everybody drink, because I'm going to mention Fantastic Four. This week, the guy that played Dr. Doom in Fantastic Four said, I'm not coming back for another Fantastic Four movie. Nobody asked you. Who cares what you think? No one asked you.
That's funny.
Which brings me to the manager or the owner of this one theater in Alabama or wherever. It could be wherever. Who cares? I believe it's also Disney's having a hard time getting this movie released in Russia because they're saying that it's gay propaganda or whatever. But who cares? Who cares? No one asked you if you wanted to play this movie.
Oh my God.
The
character in this movie who's gay is like one of the minor characters. Who cares?
Right.
And here's the thing, and this kind of ties into the second headline is apparently this movie, the live action Beauty and the Beast, also features Disney's first ever interracial kiss. And I'm like, it is 2017. And this is the first time they've had an interracial kiss.
You know, I would say that. I hear what you're saying. I hear the outrage. I'm not sure how much kissing they've actually had. Usually the movies end with a kiss, one chase kiss at the end, and that's it. I'm not sure how much actual kissing there has been in Disney movies.
It just seems a little, like maybe Disney wants us to pat them on the back, and I'm like, what? Yeah. Why would I? Good job on joining us in 2017 by having a gay character and an interracial couple.
Yeah. See, actually, now that I think about it, okay, I guess we're going to be spoiling Beauty and the Beast, or the new Beauty and the Beast. Who's the interracial kiss? Where is that?
Well, apparently it's Stanley Tucci.
Okay.
And Audra McDonald.
Who's Audra McDonald?
She's a big Broadway star.
Oh, okay. Is she?
He's playing. Let me see here. A cadenza. And she's playing a wardrobe, but they kiss at the end, apparently.
Okay. See,
do you think people are going to be outraged? Will they be like, there is no way a cadenza should be kissing a wardrobe?
This is exactly the BS back-patting Hollywood does that drives me crazy. It's interracial. Well, how exactly?
Well, those
one
two
piece
pieces
of furniture
they're totally different.
That's right. They're different furnitures. Is that the thing? It's
I think they kiss at the end when they're human again.
Okay, maybe, but I don't know. I'm sorry.
But let's pretend they don't, and that everyone's just going to be outraged.
Okay, here's the thing. You can't tell me. Let's go through this. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. You can't tell me. Doc, maybe? You can't tell me that the first gay Disney character was in the live-action Beauty and the Beast. Peter Pan, you can't tell me that the kid with the glasses was not gay. Sebastian in Little Mermaid.
Maybe we should say the first out.
I guess
character.
Maybe, but I find it.
Although
ridiculous.
I haven't seen the movie. I don't really know if he's out. Who knows?
I find it flatly ridiculous that this is the first quote-unquote gay character. Sebastian's definitely
What about
gay.
Jafar? Isn't Jafar gay?
I don't think... Well, maybe he is. I don't know if he's gay, but the toucan guy,
the Gilbert Gottfried.
The Gilbert Gottfried guy. No.
Iago?
Not Iago. No. The one from The Lion King. The toucan guy from The Lion King.
Yes.
That...
Rowan Atkins.
Yeah, you can't tell me that guy's gay? Not gay? Come on.
So you're saying there's always been a gay character?
Yes, it's Disney. I mean, come on. There's a reason. Okay, I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to play a little bit in stereotypes, but I feel confident in what I'm about to say. There is a reason a disproportionate number of gay people dream of working at Disneyland. There just is. You can't tell. Every theater department has that one gay Disney fan. You know what I'm talking about.
No, I don't.
Oh, come on. You can't tell me you don't know. All right.
I don't know.
Yes, you're right. The proportion of gay fans for Disney movies is exactly the same as the proportion of gay fans for any other kind of movie. That's sure, Sonia. That's the world we live in. You just pretend.
Get out!
You pretend like you don't know what I'm talking about. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that. I'm not saying there's not that there's anything wrong with it. I'm not. The crossover between certain aspects of gay culture and certain aspects of Disney culture. Come on! There's a reason Disney has a gay day. Sorry. I'm getting off.
Are you finished?
Maybe. You know what
finished.
I'm talking about.
You're finished.
No, I am not finished. I just find it ridiculous, and you know what? Actually, you know what? I'm not going to go that far. So let's see. First interracial kiss.
We're done.
Alabama movie.
That's
all right,
all our headlines.
we're done.
We did it.
We
went through them in a somewhat timely fashion.
Is there anything else that you would like to say, Sonia Mansfield, before we end this episode of Dorking Out? Episode 37? The Get Out Logan edition?
I'll just say, get out! And goodbye.
And another thing about Disney and gay people.
Oh, God.
Goodbye!
The Dorking Out Show is on Twitter at Dorking Out Show, where you can find Chris at Jet Jurgens and Sonia at The Sonia Show. You can read about Sonia's random adventures at thesoniashow.com and track the slow and creeping progress of Chris's novel and his other hijinks at jetjurgens.com. You can find out more about The Dorking Out Show at dorkingoutshow.com. While you're over there, you can support us by giving us a review on iTunes. We have a handy-dandy iTunes link to whisk you right back to 2007, where you can leave your review and 5-star rating in iTunes. We'd do it for your podcast. Want to dork out even more? Well, you can sign up for our newsletter, where you'll get all the headlines we use as fuel for the show. That's it for this week. Thanks for listening.